Medicare is complicated. Medicare can be confusing. Medicare is no fun to study. Will you know what decisions to make when Medicare time arrives for you? My name is Doug Jones, and I wrote a book to help you figure it all out. Medicare for the Lazy Man. It's on sale at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Also, you can download and listen to my podcast, Medicare for the Lazy Man, wherever fine podcasts are given away.
I woke up bright and early just for the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. The Medicare podcast with a bad attitude. One of his hands washes the other. Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Doug Jones here, as you heard my Canadian nephew Drew McMillan just announce. It is time for the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. We're bringing it to you on another bright and sunny Arizona morning. This means that Randy is going to be in a good mood when we finally get around to talking to him. And we are celebrating today the birthday of Drew McMillan's father, who is also Drew McMillan, but he goes by the name Andy. So Andy McMillan was born on the same day as my brother, a different year, but October 20th. And I forget what year he was born. I'm thinking it was 1960-ish or thereabouts, maybe 61. I know his wife, my sister, was born in 1962, and they graduated in the same year from college. And I believe that means that they might have both been born in 1962. In any event, we're looking forward to seeing them and their three children, at least one spousal unit and one child that has been born fairly recently. That's little Nora. We're going to see all of them in California over the Thanksgiving weekend. So looking forward to that. Anyway, as I mention every time we do one of these podcasts, we're here to make people feel good about transferring from regular health insurance to Medicare. A lot of people are worried about that. They think it's going to be so complicated. It's going to be rife with the possibility of errors. They don't like to ask people for quotes because these salesmen keep calling them, and they have to carry all this junk mail home from their mailbox, and it's just not the kind of pleasant thing that a lot of people anticipate as they approach Medicare. But I have a different picture. If you were to go and buy my book, Medicare for the Lazy Man 2022 at Amazon.com, then you would find out that your Medicare, I'm looking across the street, it looks like a dog's tail is wagging, and I know they don't have a dog. So I'm very concerned about what's going on behind a bush. I'm only seeing a little bit of it, but it's pretty weird. Anyway, go buy my book at Amazon.com, and you'll have your choice of a soft cover, a hard cover, an Audible book, and a Kindle book. If you have an electronic reader of some kind, that would be one of the most efficient and cost-effective ways to acquire your Medicare knowledge. And then sit down with a stiff drink for about an hour to an hour and a half. And when you have finished reading, you will have enough Medicare knowledge to make you feel confident that the entire Medicare process is going to be fairly benign, and you'll come out on the other side in better shape. You'll have pretty good coverage at a pretty reasonable price. Although I've been dealing lately with some people that are subject to the IRMA, the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, which is the success penalty. I've had several clients lately who have been penalized because they've been too successful. And so they have to pay extra for Medicare. And that's an irritating fact for them. But it's unfortunately what our political establishment has left us with, and they can't blame it on me. All I can do is explain it to them, and they won't have really any option You don't want to not be successful just to avoid the success penalty. Anyway, here we go with another episode of the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. And I would like to introduce my friend and podcast engineer, Randy Carson. Randy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely awesomely.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm very pleased to hear that. It looks like you got your ears lowered. Did that happen?
I did get my ears lowered. That's been a couple days ago, but I don't know what's happening to the color of my hair. It's every time I get in the sunshine, I'm beginning to look like I could be seen from outer space.
Well, I've got news for you. I had the same thing happen to me unexpectedly. I blamed it on the sun. I said, boy, I've been nature boy Doug here. I've been out in the sun an awful lot. My hair is turning into a like beach blonde color. And it turns out it's turning white because I'm really old. And you might have the same problem.
Is that what happened?
I believe that could be it.
Okay, everybody says this, but in my mind, I'm still 19 years old.
Oh, same here.
Unfortunately, my body doesn't agree with that concept.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this constant fight between I can do that and my body going, oh, really? Try that.
Oh, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Well, here's what I did too. I wrote a book that people seem to enjoy, and it seems to do a good job for people. So I have people who have read the book calling and asking for my help in getting the Medicare insurance that they need for complete protection. And that chains me to the desk. And I've noticed that none of my clothes fit anymore because I'm not even getting the paltry amount of exercise I used to get working on the cars, getting up off the floor, getting down on the floor with my wrench that I forgot, and getting up off the floor again when I realize I've got a metric wrench instead of a regular wrench, and I got to get back down on the floor. And that was actually keeping me slim and trim. I didn't realize that all those years.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying there was more exercise in working on cars than one might expect. And since I haven't been doing much of that, I have started to pork up.
Well, okay. Well, that porking up in your mind is a whole different concept than porking up in most people's minds. But anyway, long story short, is I saw you talked about metric wrenches.
Yeah.
And regular.
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw an ad. Well, it wasn't an ad, I guess. It was more of a funny post on Facebook the other day.
Uh-huh.
And it was you know what a crescent wrench is?
Oh, yeah.
And there
many
was
of them.
There was a crescent wrench head on two sides of a wrench, one on each side. One had an arrow pointing to metric, yeah, and the other one was pointing to US.
Oh boy! Now, should we explain why that's hilarious?
Well, there's probably some women, some wonderful, wonderful ladies in the audience that may not get that clue, but go ahead and explain what the concept is there.
Well, a metric wrench, a crescent wrench, which the English would refer to as an adjustable spanner, is infinitely adjustable. So you can set it to the exact size you want, and you don't have to worry about what that size is. It opens real wide or it closes up for a small hex nut, and it will accommodate without any question at all either metric or imperial measurements. So it's funny that somebody would mark a wrench with this side for metric, this side for imperial, because frankly it makes no difference whatsoever to the wrench.
That just occurred to me, Doug. You know what I need?
Glasses?
No.
Oh, well, I know it's not a haircut.
No, I need crescent pants.
Oh,
so I can infinitely adjustable, whatever size I need, I can make it happen.
Well, I think they call those Sansa belt. Weren't those fashionable back in the 1950s?
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name forever. Sansa belt.
Yeah,
holy bananas.
That's exactly. Some genius decided to invent pants that didn't need to be resized every time you gained or lost a couple of pounds. And they were elastic, I guess.
Yeah, and the other problem is that, and I never had any that were actually Sansa belt, but I had some that were kind of like that.
Yeah.
And the problem is they do have a max, and once you get to the max, they still cut you in half.
Absolutely. Mary went out and bought a couple of belts for me. We had a social occasion that we had to kind of get a little bit dressed up for, like business casual or something. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I had, well, I told you I porked up a little bit, and the belt I've been wearing for years is on its last hole. And Mary said, well, I'm going to the store. I'll get you a couple of belts. So she comes home with belts that are like full grown anaconda snakes. These things are so damn long. It's incredible. I've got a 32-inch waist, and these things were 38 and size 42 or something.
Holy
like
bananas.
I know. I know. Yeah, it's just like, well, there's some old jokes I'll leave aside, but it's a lack of understanding the various sizes, I guess, and their relationship with each other.
Well, here's your fun fact for the day then about belts, and then we probably ought to, I think we ought to get into some Medicare work here. But
I'm sure the audience agrees with that.
If you need to go out and buy yourself a gun belt, and let's say, for example, your belt is a 30, let's say your belt's a 36.
Okay.
And when you buy a gun belt, you have to go 2 inches higher.
Oh, okay.
Because you always wear a gun, like an old cowboy gun belt.
Sure. Yeah. We have one hanging on a pegboard, not a pegboard. It's if you walked into God, what is it? Boy. The name of the building on a ranch where the ranch hands hung out. If you walked into the cowboys, home on the ranch, the building where they slept, the bunkhouse.
Bunkhouse, yeah.
Yeah. And you'd have a place to hang your hat, like pegs sticking out of the wall, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we got one of those with a gun belt hanging on it with Mary's single action Army Colt knockoff gun in it.
Oh, cool. Well, just know that I've got a very beautiful custom made gun belt. Unfortunately, I have grown more than the custom gun belt did.
Something, it's been a while since I've tried Mary's on. It fit both of us at one time. I hate to think that one of us has outgrown that. Oh boy.
So now all I can do is sing. You know how they in the Western movies they sling one over their shoulder?
Yeah.
So if you ever see me walking down the street with one slung over my shoulder, it's not because I'm trying to look cool. It's because I'm too freaking big for the belt anymore.
Right. Well, you've got only one option, and that's to get another one. And
I do.
If you get it too big, you could get a second one, turn the holster around, and there was somebody out there, of a popular cowboy, who wore two gun belts. Instead of having a gun belt with two holsters, he wore two gun belts crisscrossed.
Oh, okay.
That would accommodate a larger size without dropping to the ground, I guess.
Well, someday when you and I are on a road trip, I want to go to Tucson because there is probably a world-renowned, if not, many, many, many states renowned custom gun belt maker down there.
Well, something, there's a custom handmade boot maker in Tucson as well, Stewart Boot Company.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they use the same kind of expertise for both items.
My next door neighbor has got, he's unfortunately passed on now, wonderful guy, ex-Marine, he has a custom made gun belt from the guy in Tucson. And it is freaking gorgeous. And I would do anything to have this belt except for I could only fit it around
losing weight.
I could only fit it around my neck, and then that would look a little strange.
Okay, well, if you got an equivalent gun belt that looked as beautiful as this neighbor's gun belt is, that would inspire you to go on a diet every once in a while, so you would always be able to fit into it, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's an option. I definitely would like to do that. Someday you and I are going to take a road trip, though. We got to get to Tucson. Last time I was in Tucson, I didn't get to see as much as I wanted to. But anyway, long story short.
Well, my neighbors across the street are packing up their car right now to head out to Tombstone. Apparently it's Hellacious Days or something at the end of October in Tombstone. And so they have spent $1,500 to go down there for a long weekend. And since all the motels are completely crammed with people, they're going to be living in a tent. And it's not their tent. It's like the city of Tombstone has set up tents someplace. And charging through the nose for people to stay in the tent.
That's just not right.
But the reason these people even get that privilege is because they dress like, period costumes. They have very, very elegant. He looks like a successful businessman with a Western, tilt to his clothing, and she looks like one of these women with a bustle and everything, an 1890s type of costume, and they're very well known around here for dressing in period costumes.
Cool.
I'm sitting here with a pile of articles that I've been collecting. The last few episodes, you may have noticed, have been filled with news about Medicare Advantage plans and how they are on a roll to qualify for federal penitentiary. Hard time, because there's a lot of fraud going on in the Medicare Advantage world and a lot of disappointment of Medicare Advantage members or the customers that buy their plans when Joe Namath or Jimmy J.J. Walker tells them to call the number. They wind up with a Medicare Advantage plan, and then frequently they wind up being very disappointed. So I have been saving the other articles and items that I run across because I knew that we would at some point not be talking about Medicare Advantage plans. And Randy, I want you to help me out here because I've got so many things to discuss. I don't know what's going to be useful or helpful to the audience. I've got, I'll just start reading headlines and you tell me when to stop. Health plan shakeup could disrupt coverage for low-income Californians. Do we care about low-income Californians? After Congress fails to add dental coverage, Medicare weighs limited benefit expansion. Listen up. You can now buy hearing aids without a prescription.
What'd you say?
I said, listen up. You can now buy hearing aids without a prescription. Ontalarius, what's the name of that medical specialty that deals with hearing? Those guys say that you need their expertise in order to get the right
audiologists.
Thank you very much. Here's another headline. If you're worried about the environment, consider being composted when you die.
What the hell? What? That's
all
not
right.
I don't want to be composted. I want to have my ashes scattered over a beautiful actress in Ireland.
Well, that could happen too. You can be half composted and half had the ashes scattered. All right, that sounds like you had your hand in the air. So here we go. If you're worried about the environment, consider being composted when you die. This came out in October, October 11th, I think is the date. Seattle-based funeral home Recompose. Oh, boy, that's a sleepy sounding name. It offers to compost bodies, turning them into soil, a recently emerging alternative to cremation and burials. Would you rather be buried or cremated when you die? If you feel the way I do, the answer is neither. I cringe at the thought of my body burning up at well over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit or being pumped full of toxic chemicals and spending the rest of eternity in a cramped box 6 feet underground. So here's another question. How do you feel about having your body reduced to compost and used to plant a tree, grow flowers, or repair depleted soil in a forest? How would soil get depleted in a forest? It's got all kinds of leaves that keep falling on the soil to replenish it. I don't think soil in forests gets depleted, but that's just me. Back to the article. Human composting doesn't mean you're tossed into a bin with potato peels, crushed eggshells, and coffee grounds. Rather, you'd be placed in a metal or wooden vessel enveloped by organic materials such as wood chips, alfalfa, straw, and then slowly reduced to a nutrient-packed soil. The process can take 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on the methods used. I don't know about you, but I like the sound of that. Now, this is not me. This is Bernard J. Wolfson talking. He's the author of this article. I don't know about you, but I like the sound of that, at least compared with those other two options. I never felt like I had an option that works for me until now, said Assembly Member Christine Garcia, Bell Gardens. Guess what party she belongs to in California, Randy? Oh, Randy's yawning. No, he...
I'm here. I was my mouse got away from me. I'm sorry. Oh, let me guess. What party would she be part of?
Well, she's got a letter after her name that indicates the party, and it's one of two letters that you're probably thinking of right now. But anyway, you think about it for a few minutes.
I will.
She authored a bill which was signed last month by Gavin Newsom, ooh, hiss, to legalize human composting in California. Pretty soon it's going to be forced upon you, I predict, if Gavin Newsom has anything to say about it. California.
I can't human compost. I cannot get my head through this.
Well,
let's go throw grandma in the garden.
Yeah, and then it'll take 6 weeks to 6 months, and she'll stop rotting eventually.
It seems just very, very I don't know what's the right term. Disrespectful, I think is what it's called. But
that's why I brought this article out. When I saw it, I knew it had your name all over it. I was going to get a strong opinion one way or the other from you. California becomes the 5th state to allow this method of body disposal, commonly known by the more scientific sounding name, natural organic reduction. Boy, they got to add weird names to everything. It used to be junior high school. Now it's middle school. Why do things have to change? Anyway, Colorado, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington have legalized the practice, and legislation is pending in several other states. I don't know where, because I didn't care enough to click on the link.
So what were those states again, Doug?
Well, they sounded like they also belong to the same political party: Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, and Colorado. So
I could have picked that list right out of the air.
Yeah, they pretty much all have the same little letter after their names that this California legislator has. The California law takes effect in 2027, allowing time for regulators to establish the rules that will govern human composting in the state. But it's never too early to start planning for your death. Heather Anderson, a 68-year-old consultant and former hospice nurse in Seattle, says that she has already chosen to be composted when she dies because it's much easier on the environment than burial or cremation. Okay, now I got to ask this Heather Anderson what she thinks happens to all of the insects, all of the wildlife, every other life form that dies. Why do you think that your body being composted is going to change any effect on the environment? I'm just going to leave that as a rhetorical question for Heather, and I doubt that she'll hear this podcast to answer it. We're actually enhancing the earth rather than taking away from it, she says. And there's a spiritual dimension to her decision, she says, since she'll be going back to being part of the whole cycle of life. Anderson, who is in good health, purchased a prepaid composting plan from Recompose, the Seattle-based green funeral home, whose founder, Katrina Spade, I wonder what political party she belongs to, she's widely viewed as a pioneer of natural organic reduction for humans. Ironically, her name is Spade, so she is named after the tool that one would use to dig a grave in a traditional burial. California is the 5th state to legalize human composting. I don't know why all these articles have to repeat themselves halfway through. One naturally reduced human body can yield anywhere from 250 to 1,000 pounds of soil, depending on the method used and the type and volume of organic materials mixed in with the body. That's enough to fill several wheelbarrows or the bed of a pickup. Go ahead, throw some dead people in my pickup truck, will you? Once the process,
none of this sounds like a good time, Doug.
I know it. I can't wait to finish reading this article and end the podcast episode because I'm sure the audience is cringing and grinding their teeth. So, of course, being composted after death is not for everybody. For example, the California Catholic Conference objects to the new law. The methods involved, it said in a statement, reduce the human body to a disposable commodity, and we should instead seek options that uphold respect for both our natural world and the dignity of the deceased person. Those who have chosen to have their bodies composted are generally motivated by ecological concerns. With natural organic reduction, what we are in fact doing is taking everything that continues to be alive in the human body after the human being leaves it and turning it into something that can actually nurture the planet. Oh, now we're going to nurture the whole planet. Guess who said that? It's a person named Holly Blue Hawkins. She lives in Santa Cruz County. And
Oh my God. So is she a friend of
oh,
Spade?
better yet, she's making money off of this thing. Her Last Respects consulting firm offers death planning services.
No, it's called No Respect
Yeah.
Death Planning Service.
Oh boy, oh boy. After
Hey,
death.
yeah, come to the funeral. Grandma's out back. We're right in the. You caught us right in the middle of corn planting, but you can go take a look at Grandma.
Well, then they got to throw some stuff on her to make her rot faster. So they give
Yeah,
everybody in the church a little spade, I guess, or a trowel. And here, here's a big bin of stuff. Just toss it on Grandma, and it'll
yeah.
help her rot.
Here's your own little personal cup of quicklime.
After death, the human body retains numerous elements and minerals that are nourishing to plants, including carbon, calcium, magnesium, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Gee, I heard somebody did a calculation. This was a long time ago, but the human body is worth about 98 cents in these various minerals like nitrogen, phosphorus. I mean, geez.
I had heard $6, but either way, it's not a whole bunch.
Well, look what's happened to the economy lately. We've had a lot of inflation.
Okay, well, 98 cents. We're probably at least worth $6 now, Doug.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I don't want to devalue the human body. Traditional burials pose many problems. I don't think they do. I think they had it figured out, a long time ago. The formaldehyde used in embalming fluids puts funeral workers at risk for problems such as irregular heartbeat, a dangerous buildup of fluid in the lungs, and over time cancer. Come on. They have had this problem. This is just like a made up piece of garbage. Moreover, the toxic substances in embalming fluid can leach into the soil. I think it takes a really long time for that to happen, and they probably go inert long before that ever happens. So this is a big fat lie. Not to mention that there just isn't enough land in cemeteries for everyone to have their own plot indefinitely into the future. I would ask rhetorically, has anybody ever driven over this great country or flown over it? There is so much land out there. There is land both for all the people that will die in the future, plus all of the landfill expansion that's going to be required as we acquire things and throw away other things. There is no reason for recycling. There's no reason for limiting our garbage, and there's no reason for limiting the people that want to be buried if they want to be buried. I think we should accommodate them. Cremation, on the other hand, emits numerous pollutants that are harmful to humans. I don't believe that's true. They use natural gas, and it's burned in the most efficient way possible. Once again, another lie. Millions of tons of carbon dioxide every year. So what? And the percentage of people choosing cremation is growing fast, primarily because it's cheaper than a burial. I don't think that's the only reason. Cremation is projected to account for 59% of body disposals this year and 79% by 2040. 3 million Americans die each year. That's a lot of bodies burning up. Nothing wrong with that. Human composting has emerged only recently as an alternative to burial and cremation. Since Recompose opened in December 2020, the company has composted fewer than 200 bodies. Obviously, that's a tiny fraction of the people who die in Washington state, but 1,200 customers have prepaid for a natural organic reduction, which he believes is a sign of growing appeal. Many funeral entrepreneurs say that the human composting is a significant business opportunity in a $20 billion industry. Our owners have been holding discussions about expanding across the country as more states legalize it. You can only talk about silliness like this for so long. Dying isn't cheap, and composting is no exception. The cost of natural organic reduction ranges between $3,000 to just under $8,000, depending on which company you choose. The companies typically offer on-site ceremonies for an extra charge. That compares with an average funeral cost of just under $7,000 for cremation and just over $9,400 for a traditional burial with casket and vault. I'll tell you, my mother, one of the cheapest people on the planet, was in charge of my father's funeral. I think she pulled that off for less than $4,000. It was a wonder to behold how she took a carving knife to the funeral home's plans and wound up spending about 1/8 of the money that they had budgeted for that. Yes, Randy,
I have a question.
please ask away.
Okay, so human composting, otherwise known as rotting, why would that cost $3,000? I can go sit somebody in the washout here and accomplish the same thing for a lot less than $3,000.
Randy, I have to believe that the people who came up with this idea have seen the handwriting on the wall that they can make a ton of money by appealing to the sillier aspects of people who would sign up for this sort of thing. So they've tacked in a little extra profit for themselves because they know that these tree huggers are going to pay extra if they can hug trees in death as they have in life.
You're going to have to watch very carefully in the future, Doug. When your landscaper comes in with some mulch, read that bag very carefully.
It's going to have human body parts in it: phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium. Those are the three elements.
$6, and the mulch is going to cost you, I don't know, 35.
Yeah, and is it going to say this mulch provided by so and so's grandmother, who died in the year 2023?
They're going to come out with what do they call it? Like I can't think of it right now. But anyway, it's grandma's landscaping. So anyway, it'll be some sort of a process where you buy into the what am I trying to say here?
Well,
a franchise opportunity for grandma's landscaping.
You're giving me an excellent idea because my grandparents on both sides of my family are just laying in the ground. Why don't we dig them up and sell them?
I know we could get some money, at least $6.
Yeah, at the very least. But then these vultures that are asking you to be mulched, turned into mulch, are going to take their share of the profits too.
Yeah. Well, you know something, we have overstayed our time here, and we are going to have to sign out for today on this very interesting topic of whether or not you should have grandma living in your garden, basically causing your strawberries to flourish. Well, there's that possible.
It's something to contemplate, isn't it? But
yes,
we had to close the doors on this episode and get the heck out before somebody comes up with a reason it's actually a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, thank you all for joining us. I certainly appreciate it because you could have been many different places listening to many different things. And you weren't. You were here with us listening to the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast, which we certainly enjoy doing for you. You have just spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the anti-insurance guy from Oklahoma. No more, though. He's living in Cave Creek up in the high-altitude mountains behind the city, watching over everything in the territory to make sure nothing goes wrong. In his fortress of solitude.
Bye-bye, everyone.